Why jack off when you can jack in? It's Filmshake, the 90s Movies Podcast. I'm Jordan.
And this is Nick.
And this is episode 95. Of course, the jack off comment. A quote from one of the movies we're covering. We're not terrible people. We just watch terrible movies for this podcast. Something I punished myself with for losing the trivia battle last time. So we're going to get into Circuitry Man, our punishment movie from 1990, and then our main film, also my pick, Darkman, from 1990, starring Liam Neeson.
What was with you and men this time?
It was just, I don't know, I just wanted to watch Darkman, and I had Dollman on VHS, and I was like, oh, Dollman, but it's actually from 91, so then I had to go with Circuitry Man.
Circuitry Man.
With Vernon Wells as Plughead. But yeah, speaking of Liam Neeson, we should mention our Patreon, which no longer exists. We did just publish a lost episode that you painstakingly edited. Our true episode 7 back when we weren't a 90s podcast, and we covered a movie called The Gray, starring Liam Neeson, when we were going to do a faith and film series. Like, how far have we shifted away from all that, which I'm so thankful for. It's like, we were just terribly pompous. I'm so glad that we've steered into the 90s and made this our bread and butter. But yes, Nick, any thoughts here on looking back, our Patreon shutting down, the Gray episode you edited not being available to anybody now, which I'm very thankful for.
Yeah, you know what sucks, Jordan? I'm watching The Gray, and I listened to the episode, and I got like halfway through editing it, and I was just like, man, these guys are pompous dicks. I hate these guys. That being
Oh,
us.
wait, that's us.
So I go back and watch The Gray, and I'm like listening to us talk, and I'm so scared to make the point I'm trying to make, which is just absurd, like how frightened I am to offend like 25 different groups, like the Film Bros we're recording with on the channel that we used to be on, that we got kicked off of shortly after, because we already were not Film Bro enough for them, yeah. And we were trying to do that, and I was trying to do all this stuff and say all these things about The Gray, and I had some messed up things going on in my life too. It wasn't working for me. And I watched The Gray, and the whole time I'm watching it, I'm like, damn, this is like one of my favorite all-time movies. I love this movie. I wish I approached that episode with the abandon that I approach our episodes with now, where I just don't care. Like, if the Nick of now recorded with the Jordan of then, I would have called you a dick like 30 times in the first 5 minutes of that episode, Jordan.
And you would have been absolutely correct.
Right.
But
I would have had every right to do that.
I'm so glad that we just have reached the point in our personal lives and our podcasting in general of just like, I don't give a shit. This is like, we should go back and record a bonus episode and post it on the main feed at some point of just us talking about The Gray with our current state of being.
You know what's the insufferable thing about it is, like that whole episode, well, I was coming off a friend of mine ODing and dying. So I'm very emotional in that episode and very heavily medicated. But also, that was coming from a time in my life where I had a self-deletion impulse that I dealt with throughout most of my life. And I finally put that to bed. And that's been to bed for almost 6 years now. But I had a stroke earlier this year, right? I mean, I'm watching The Gray while editing the episode, and I'm like, you dumb son of a bitch. Like, you don't know how good you had it. I almost died from that stroke earlier, and now I'm watching this episode about Liam Neeson, like, needing this one good fight to bring him back to life at the end, which I won't get into it, but I would love to do an episode on The Gray now and just really dig into it.
Yeah, that would be fun.
But I'm watching that.
Would be fun.
I'm like tearing up, like, man, I almost died earlier this year and I want to live so much. And I was not appreciative of life, I feel like, when I recorded before. But now that I've had this stroke, I want to live in Jordan. Damn it. Somebody tried to kill me like 2 weeks ago. Someone pulled right out in front of me in traffic on the highway and I got in an accident and I'm all banged up. I had a stroke. I broke my toe. I got in a really violent car accident that again almost killed me. Things just keep trying to take me out and I just want to live, damn it. I don't want want to die anymore. It's been years since I wanted to die.
I just want to
live.
I just want to live, damn it. Yeah.
And then you made me watch Circuitry Man, and I still want to live. So I must really want to live, Jordan.
Oh, you didn't watch Circuitry Man 2, at least. But hey, you know, on the flip side of all that, it's made you appreciate your life in a deeper way. You have this zest for life, maybe, and, you know, I don't know. Yeah, it's just like things are trying to take you out, man. I'm so sorry that you're going through all that. But, you know, at least you have that. At least you have that desire to live, because, you know, not everybody can say that. I'm glad that you still have that desire to live after watching Circuitry Man.
In the future, the war on pollution will be lost, and civilization will move underground. A world where the last frontier is the human mind. A world where sex and drugs are computerized pleasures.
This shit is pure.
Head rush!
It's not the chicks that I want. It's always been you. Welcome to my mind.
Circuitry Man.
It really tested my limits, but I was like, no, I want to live. I don't care what happens, Vernon Wells. And also, Jordan, what's the deal with this movie? So, Jim Metzler is actually the main character here. Circuitry Man isn't even the main, or Plughead is Vernon Wells' character. He's not the main character. The main character is Danner, played by Jim Metzler, who's like a sex robot.
Would you call him the main character? I'd say the lady is the main character, right? I don't forget the actor's name.
Oh, I'll get into her in a minute. No pun intended. But every time...
You're gonna plug right in.
Every time... Exactly.
I'm a jack in.
Every time Jim Metzler, who was a Golden Globe nominated actor, he received a Golden Globe nomination for Best Supporting Actor for the movie Tex in 1982. His performance in here, I would say, is a straight-to-video performance for a straight-to-video film. And every time he says Circuitry Man, he says, Circuitry Man! It's like he's doing a church play where, like, Circuitry Man is the bad guy. You know, he's like, oh, but the power of God will stop you, Circuitry Man! Like, every single time. Every time, Jordan, why?
Well, let's slow down. I feel like it would be amusing, at least, for people listening to know what this movie is. So I will attempt to describe it. It's a post-apocalyptic dystopian nightmare where the world has become so polluted that everybody lives underground, and it's all just like dusty and dark and cramped and wires and Blade Runner-esque, but you're like inside a parking garage for 90% of the movie.
They film the whole thing in a damn parking garage, and they're like, well, the whole world's a parking garage basically now. Everyone's underground and you just drive. And they didn't dress it up or anything. Like, they didn't do any set dressing. They're just like, oh, use your imagination. This parking garage is a dystopian future. Just imagine that it is.
And it strangely has, like, this kind of 1920s gangster vibe to it as well, where, like, the main, well, who I would say is the main star is this girl who's, like, a bodyguard, and she's working for this lady named Juice, and they want her to come and do, like, one more job so she can, you know, she wants to get the money from this job to go topside and get out of this hellhole. But it's like these, at one point, they're like in this, this kind of police shakedown where someone yells, drop the heaters and kiss the carpet. And like, they're saying stuff like this where it's just really anachronistic and like weird for this sci-fi futuristic world where there's like mutant leeches that people have to eat to survive. I don't know what the hell's going on in this movie. It's really weird. She's like tied up to a bed at the beginning of this, and they like cut off her shirt. It's just like, what the fuck? What is happening? Where's Vernon Wells? You know, he comes in and they're like buying computer chips to plug into your head so you get, I guess, like a orgasm from that. I don't know. He's having a really good time with these little chips plugged into his head. And then he plugs, as he's like hunting them down later, trying to catch them, he's plugging into people right before they die so he can experience their pain and get off on that. But yeah, this is pretty shitty movie. All in all, I lost interest about halfway through. Not quite sure what happened with the sex robot guy and why they ended up on the beach at the end. But yeah, this thing exists and we watched it.
Yeah, I didn't have to, and I did anyway, which was a bad choice. I like how it starts off, though. They try to make you think, like, this is going to be like Blade Runner. We're playing this jazzy music, but it's kind of like this doomy jazzy music. And the camera pans down, and you're in, like, this room with, like, these blinds. So it's like, ooh, maybe there's going to be, like, a touch of noir here. And they show this horse statue, and it's like, oh, this is like the origami unicorn from Blade Runner. And then that's it, Jordan. All that goes out the window, and you're in a damn parking garage for, like, the rest of the movie.
Yeah, it very much felt like they were inspired by Blade Runner for, like, 5 minutes, and then they gave up.
You know what's funny, too, is the opening credits are really weird. I feel like they
are really weird. That's like the most notable thing about this movie, where it's just like a shot and then it cuts to black, and like instead of opening credits like overlaid on an image, it's just like credits scrolling up, which is really strange. I was like, okay, this is very straight to video.
It is. It makes it seem even more low budget, but also the opening crawl's like, and then there were no more trees. And then the first shot of the movie is the desert and Joshua trees in the desert, which are trees, Jordan. There are still trees.
But they're mutated, polluted trees.
I guess so. So maybe technically they're not trees, or this movie's just really incompetent.
I like how Plughead would like plug in. He finds like this really big monster truck looking vehicle and like plugs into it. And he's like, look, Ma, no hands. And he's like driving the truck with his mind. He's just like Vernon Wells, kind of goofy cornball at times, but then he can be a bit of a formidable foe in some scenes, or, kind of menacing, but it's all just trash. It's trash. He's got a sidekick named Yo-Yo. So like, I don't know. It's whatever. It exists.
Yes. So there are two things I'm going to mainly be doing in this episode, I guess, Jordan. I'm just going to be playing to the base emotions. We've already covered anger. The other one, though, is not really an emotion, Jordan. It's just pure horniness. So Barbara Allen Woods plays Yo-Yo. People of a certain age may remember her from a certain show that used to come on very late on the USA Network. That series being Eden, which was a soap opera.
Okay.
That came on late at night on USA. She was also in the June 1993 issue of Playboy, Jordan. I don't think she wears a bra in this film.
The specific month and day and year?
Well,
jeez.
I thought she looked all right, but when they showed Dana Wheeler-Nicholson as Lori, I thought, man, she's really doing it for me. But, like, too much of a degree. Like, she is an attractive woman, but, like, what's the deal here? There's, like, some primal thing, and then I remembered, Jordan, she was in The X-Files, Season 3, Episode 13, Syzygy.
Of course you know the exact episode.
Yes. She has one of my favorite lines from the entire series. That's an episode where, like, all the astronomy gets misaligned and, like, all these teenagers in this town start acting crazy, but, like, everyone in the town acts crazy because the stars are all misaligned and everything is messed up. And Mulder and Scully go to this town to investigate this death, and then they start fighting in ways they don't usually fight. And there's already a detective there. It's Detective Angela White, who is played by Dana Wheeler-Nicholson. And the thing is, Mulder's generally, like, very professional and also a huge nerd. Like, he barely gets laid throughout the whole 9 seasons of The X-Files. Or I guess 11 if you want to count the 2 extra ones. Like, eventually he has sex with Scully, but it takes a really long time. Like, 7 years.
Yeah.
And he barely ever gets laid before that. It's like, if he does, it's like a vampire or something, and then he has to kill her. But
of course.
So, and very anachronistically in this episode, she was a detective. They had the hots for each other, like big time, which got between him and Scully even more. And there's a scene where she busts into his hotel room because he's just like drinking vodka, like nonstop. And she busts into his hotel room, Jordan, and she asked him if he can help her solve the mystery of the horny beast.
The horny beast?
Yes, the horny beast. Because, it's an X-File.
What is the mystery?
She's the horny beast, and she wants him to boink her, Jordan. I use a lot of restraint there. And he's gonna boink her, but then it gets interrupted and it doesn't happen. But I always thought like that was pretty hot because I was like, man, like I really empathize with Mulder in this show, right? Like I feel like I'm a fairly attractive guy. Like I play sports, but also I'm a nerd who like sticks to himself. And I feel like I'm like not picking up the chicks, Of course I want this hot Detective Angela White to bust into my hotel room and ask me if I want to help her solve the mystery of the horny beast. That really got in there, Jordan. That got in there deep. So when I saw her in this movie, I was like, oh yeah, she's hot.
Maybe we can solve the mystery of the horny beast.
Maybe we should just watch some television.
And I thought that this whole movie, that was the only thing that kept me watching, Jordan.
That's the only thing that kept you watching.
They keep like pulling off just a little bit more of her top. She's like, man, I'm tired of wearing this way. Like she one straps it later in the movie for no reason. She's like, what if I took this off and moved it around to where it was a one strap now? Just because I have really nice shoulders and a nice rack. And then she does that. Why? No other reason. They knew the movie was getting boring, Jordan. They knew it was getting
we need
boring.
to liven it up here. We need, get something going.
And I was fine with it. That got me through. This isn't even a long movie, but this got me through the whole 93 minutes.
I'm glad you had some assistance.
Yeah. She helped me solve the mystery of the horny beast. It was me. I was the horny beast. Mystery solved. Circuitry Man sucks, Jordan, but I'm going to give it a 3 out of 10 just for her.
Okay. I'll give it a 2 out of 5.
All right. Wow, that's a higher score than me.
I guess so. I mean, it might have been improved that I just kind of stopped watching it and it was on in the background. So it wasn't offending me in any way. It's just like, okay, this is on.
I'm like watching it. I'm like, well, at least I think the lady's hot. Then like Jordan, like a supermodel came over to Jordan's house and he had sex with her with the movie on in the background.
Yeah.
He's like, I'll give this movie an extra point.
Right, yeah, extra points for that.
Meanwhile, I'm all banged
good memories
up,
are formed.
watching this in my recliner with my beat up shoulder and my numb left side and my jacked up throat from the stroke, and I'm like, man, I remember when I was younger and my whole life ahead of me, Jordan. I hadn't seen Circuitry Man yet. Anything was possible.
All of life was ahead of me.
Yeah.
Well, that's enough for Circuitry Man, but we have more Man to cover. We're really here to talk about 1990's Darkman.
Can I just say, without anything else about Darkman, I'm glad that no one says Darkman in the movie.
Darkman? I do enjoy that there's a leg gun in the opening scene. There's a man hopping around on one leg. There's another man using his leg as like a assault rifle to gun down some bad guys or other. Well, I guess he's a bad guy, but there's drug dealers or. I don't know what's going on exactly.
If this movie was only its bookends, it would be one of the greatest films ever made.
Right, if that was just if that was just the movie, just that moment.
Yeah, just like this and then the end.
Yeah, because there's questionable stuff throughout. But yeah, what would you say? We've got Liam Neeson here. We've got Frances McDormand, who, I don't think we've really talked much or had much opportunity to talk about Frances McDormand, but probably one of my favorite actresses. She's really good. She's just fine in this. I mean, she doesn't have a whole lot to do. I feel like Liam Neeson is a good fit, at least for what he's asked to do. He's got to act through a lot of makeup and he's all wrapped up. Basically, we have a plot here where he's a scientist and he's trying to create this fake skin, this regenerative skin for people with, disfigurations and whatnot. But it can't last in the light. They discover that it breaks down after 99 minutes and then it just starts to like bubble and break down and boil looking and looks really gross, which they make good use of throughout this. Sam Raimi with his background in the horror and the perverse for sure. coming through here. So yeah, and also just really wacky and out there tone. Very comic book slapstick in a lot of places. But yeah, basically Liam Neeson is the scientist, and then he gets wrapped up into a bad deal with some gangsters who are like coming after some real estate memorandum because his girlfriend works in that field. Anyway, they bust up his lab and burn him and disfigure him and scar him and blow him up. And everybody thinks he's dead, but he's really not. And he turns into Darkman. He makes masks, and he tricks people, and he kills them.
Yeah, that about sums it up.
That's about it.
This is an interesting movie. I remember when this was released, the marketing campaign for it was insanely good. It got me really pumped up. Tell
me about it.
It made me really want to see the film, but it looked very dark. So, my mom was like, nah, you can't see Darkman. Forget about that.
It's dark.
Yeah, it's dark.
It's literally in the title.
Yeah. But it's like, who is Darkman? Like, who is he?
Mm-hmm.
The commercials had all these explosions, and the movie did well compared to its budget. Not well enough to where the sequels would be like major motion pictures at the movie theater starring Liam Neeson, but it did well enough.
Yeah, it was number 1 at the box office when it came out. It was shortly bumped down after that, but I mean, this is coming from Sam Raimi, who had breakout like horror hits, but they were all like independent films up until this point. And here he is like working with a major studio for the first time. And it's like, oh damn, we have a number 1 movie.
Yeah, and it's nuts because he like doesn't want to talk about this movie or anything. It was apparently a pretty troubled movie, Jordan. They had a bunch of issues with this thing.
Yeah. Well, I imagine too, like going along with that is just working with the studio for the first time. Lots of studio interference. Apparently didn't work well with Frances McDormand. Had like creative differences with her, but I'm like, what kind of stake does she have in this? She's just like a minor character romantic partner of the lead. It's like, I don't know, maybe because she was connected with Joel Cohen and the Coens were real connected with the Raimis. Like, I don't know, she felt like she had more draw on this thing than she really did or what, but I don't know. I just found that to be interesting.
Jordan, I can tell you, I did my research on this one. I'll actually talk about the movies now. So the Hollywood Reporter did a huge piece, a commemorative piece on Darkman when it turned 30. And they got most of the major players involved to talk about the film. And most people did. Raimi didn't because he just doesn't want to talk about this thing. It's too much pain. But Frances McDormand did. Apparently, this was like her first big feature coming off the theater, so she had a huge chip on her shoulder. She was like, we do things like this in the theater, and Raimi was like, well, this is a movie, you gotta do things this way. So they butted heads like that, but also, McDormand said, when I came to this movie, I said, I'm not playing this character like she's a damsel in distress. That's the last way I'm gonna play her. And now when she looks back at it, she says, you know what, that character was just a damsel in distress. And that's how I should have played her. Yeah, I mean, I don't know really if it would be improved one way or the other if she had leaned into that. I mean, I feel like, with Frances McDormand, you never get that. That's like, maybe that's just built into her and built into the roles that she takes too, or like she doesn't want to be that character. But yeah, I mean, maybe because of that, I don't know, it just doesn't feel like she's all that interesting or evocative here. Where you're just like, okay, like, her boyfriend dies. She thinks he's dead. Then she's kind of like consoled by the wealthy guy that she works for, and they like go dancing. And then she finds out her boyfriend is not dead, but he keeps like disappearing in random moments. Yeah, and then she's like used to lure the bad guys to him, and I don't know. Yeah, like she's saved at the end. I guess she's definitely a damsel in distress, where she's like hanging off of the high steel, as the bad guy calls it. But yeah, I don't know. Otherwise, I'm just like, I don't know. I could take her or leave her, honestly, even though she's one of my favorite actresses. Yeah, she's no great shakes in this. I'm with you. I usually like her in most stuff that she's in. And I mean, honestly, she's got kind of a leg up there. She's married to a Coen brother, so she's in the Coen brother movies. And I mean, they write great parts for her, and she gets to play great roles. But she's great in those roles, so I do generally like her. And she's I like her in other stuff too. Like, she did Shortcuts 3 years after this. I loved her in that. I think she's really good in Primal Fear from 6 years later, the same year that Fargo was released. So I do like Frances McDormand, but this was not great for her. I kind of bummed that Julia Roberts didn't end up here, because apparently Liam Neeson and she had just broken up. And they talk about in the reporter piece, whenever they did their test screening, they had so freshly broken up that they were both tearing up and crying through the whole rehearsal. Like, they couldn't make it through it without crying. And then her agent contacted them and was like, Julie is too jacked up from this breakup. She can't do it. Someone else should do it.
She would have been a good fit for it, though. I feel like she would have worked well. But then she got Pretty Woman the same year, so...
Right. I mean, things obviously worked out better for her. She became America's darling after Pretty Woman.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think she's going to become America's darling being in Darkman.
Right. But you got to think, this is a role where the female character is grieving for most of the film, which she would have been grieving their relationship, right? So I feel like
made sense,
it would have worked, but alas, it was not to be.
Yeah, I guess that's the thing with McDormand, too, is like that emotionality of like somebody who's going through grief. Maybe it's Fargo, maybe it's Blood Simple, and just the Coens like sensibility that's rubbed off on her, rubbed off on me, like watching her in those kind of films. But I don't find her somebody that I can like connect with emotionally in that way, where I'm like, oh, I feel bad for her. You know, she just seems like a strong, independent woman no matter what. So it doesn't really lend her to this kind of role.
Yeah, I agree. She's kind of a void in the movie, and unfortunately, whenever Neeson gets all burned up and left for dead, she's kind of got to carry things for a little while, and that movie kind of drags in the middle because of that, I feel like.
Well, you know what is a great part of this movie? Is the carnival scene with the pink elephant. Oh, man. So I'm watching this, and, you know, like we're talking about, like most of this movie, I'm like, okay, it's all right. You know, he's got kind of a cool lab that he escapes to after he's all burned. You've got, like, you know, your Sam Raimi kind of practical, weird, wacky effects thrown in here. You've got just quirky stuff like the leg gun guy hopping around, all that kind of stuff. You know, you've got a kind of a fun villain in a way, but even though he's kind of underplayed, this villain Durant who's like chopping off people's fingers with his cigar cutter and keeping them in a box.
Yeah, and he's the henchman too. He's not the main villain.
Well, that's true. He's the henchman, but you know, kind of the main villain for the most part until we get to the wealthy dude just being like the evil schmuck. But anyway, all that to say, like, movie's okay, movie's fine. But then you get to the carnival scene, which is definitely my favorite moment. It's also when my VHS tape broke in the middle of watching this, because I think I was laughing so hard at it, it got mad at me.
Oh, no.
But I'm watching this, and so basically to set this up, you've got Liam Neeson, who he's making these masks, you know, for himself. He's pretending like he's some of these henchmen to go and, like, steal money from the bad guys or, like, kill them, or, you know, he's getting his revenge for them burning him and disfiguring him. But then he finally gets a mask for himself where he can go and be with Julie, Frances McDormand's character, and they can go out on short little dates, because otherwise he's got to run back to the hospital. He's lying to her, not telling her, like, oh, I've actually been horribly disfigured and this is just a mask. But so they're at the carnival, and he's wanting to, like, win her this pink elephant at, like, the ball toss game, you know, where you got to knock down the bottles. He gets so mad at, I guess, you know, he's got like this super strength now because he can't feel pain. I don't know. Do you ever feel like that, Nick, on the half side of your body where you can't feel pain? Do you have like exuberant strength now?
I wish, but unfortunately part of the stroke meant that I lost strength in the left side of my body. So it's actually weaker than it used to be.
So maybe you could knock down these maybe you couldn't knock down these bottles. I don't know.
Probably.
But anyway,
not.
I love how the carny guy's like such a dick to him, and he doesn't even look at him for the most of the scene. Neeson's like, "I'd like the pink elephant," and the guy just doesn't even look at him, and he's like, "No, you have to be behind the line." And then he's just like, "No, I was behind the line. I want the pink elephant." And then he just like gets into it with this guy, and the guy finally just like calls him a freak or a weirdo or something. He like breaks his fingers, which is just like this, obviously just like a rubber hand that just pulls back like in such a goofy way. And he grabs the pink elephant from him, and he's like, this guy screams, then he screams, and then Frances McDormand screams, and he's just like,
take it down, take it, take the fucking elephant.
And then he runs away as like his face is boiling because the mask is deteriorating. And then you have like all the weird like 90s effects when he like goes psycho, or it's just like the background swirls and there's like a lightning strike and everything looks like super cartoony and very Sam Raimi vibes. But I got through this scene and was just like laughing so hard that my VHS tape broke. Had to take it apart, fix it, and put it back together. It worked. I was able to finish the movie, but I'm so glad that that kind of did happen, because when I opened it up, I noticed that the film had been spliced in that moment. Like somebody had already like watched it so many times that it broke and they taped it. So I'm like, oh yeah, that's gold right there. This is a golden scene when the VHS tape's already been spliced.
Yeah, that's right. Watch that part again and again and again.
I'm gonna go back and watch it after this.
Yeah. It kind of makes me wonder. Apparently, the original cut of this movie was like, 30 minutes longer. And it tested horribly. And apparently, there's like a cut where they cut out all the weird stuff. And I'm going to guess that was cut out because that's pretty weird. And then they had like basically a fly-by-night stealth cut, which got 10 minutes of weird stuff back into the movie. And I think got it from 85 to 95 minutes. That went under the studio executives' noses. And Sam Raimi didn't have anything to do with that cut, which is, I think, another reason why he doesn't want to talk about the movie. But apparently, producer got that cut through. I think the guy's name is Sam Talpert. If not for that, you might be missing the pink elephant scene. And why even watch the movie?
Right. If you don't have the pink elephant scene, there's no reason to watch this movie. But it's such a shame that there might be like 5 other pink elephant scenes that got cut. Like, that would be amazing. I would love this movie like 5 out of 5, no doubt. But alas, the studio and their dastardly interference, as often happens, got in the way of greatness.
Right, they had to jump in and stop things. Bruce Campbell is in this movie, Jordan. That was another...
For like a moment.
Yeah, that was a choice of the studio, because obviously Raimi was like, this Bruce Campbell guy is fantastic, and I love working with him. He can be the lead. And the studio said, nah, we don't know who that is. He's not bankable. There's no way we can put him in this.
I do like that he appears at the very end when basically Darkman saves the day, but he's resigned himself to the darkness, and he's become this monster because he's had to get revenge. Well, he didn't have to, but he's gotten revenge on all the bad guys that, scarred him for life. He's gone and screwed them all over. And he's saved the damsel in distress, Frances McDormand. But he's got to walk away. He's got to leave her, let her live her life because he's turned into this monster. He's just have to accept this, and he can be anybody. And it's almost like, is it like a Spider-Man or Batman reference in a way? I know those were like, obviously Raimi would do Spider-Man later on. Batman was a big inspiration for him, but he almost like wrote this character because he couldn't get the rights to Batman.
Well, it was the Shadow. It was the Shadow he wanted to do.
Well, I know both of those, but anyway, he's like, and I can be anybody, because he's making masks and shit. And then he turns around in the crowd and it's Bruce Campbell's face. So it's almost like like a fuck you to the studio in a way.
Yeah, it's pretty great. And Bruce Campbell had some wonderful quotes in regard to this movie, Jordan.
Hit me with them.
One of them, he's talking about how he was going to be in the movie, and then the studio was like, no, you can't be Darkman. And, he still ends up being Darkman in the end. The last image of Darkman you see is Bruce Campbell. But talking about his experience on the movie, there are some things I think a lot of people don't realize, and I didn't notice it when I was watching it, but here we go, Jordan. According to Campbell, this is exactly what he says. My first wife divorced me, so I was broken going, what the hell? So Sam goes, come on, we're doing post on Darkman and I have all sorts of problems. We both love sound. It needed lots of looping, lots of sound effects. So I made studio guy money and wound up voicing every criminal who fell to their death. Holy shit, I screamed my brains out. and they're good vintage screams. We got to a point where we were mixing, and Sam goes, "Shit, I need Darkman to yell Julie." And he looks at me and says, "Get in the booth." So that's in there, and I did all the television looping for Liam. So there's a part in the movie where Liam Neeson is supposed to yell Julie, and they forgot to do it. So it's Bruce Campbell just yelling Julie. It's fantastic.
That's funny. That really does stand out, though. Like, watching it, I did notice a lot of those sound effects or the ADR, like, stuff that they throw in, the bad guys falling, the screams and stuff. It's all very over the top and ridiculous and just adds to the campy vibe to it. So, I mean, I think that's pretty perfect that they had Campbell do all that.
Yeah, for sure. And then he talks about a scene that was cut, you know, obviously, like we talked about, a bunch of the crazy stuff got cut.
Is this the naked on the money scene?
Yeah, he says, "My favorite scene was cut because of a preview. Colin's character starts to woo Julie, Colin being the villain of the film. And you go, maybe this guy is all right. Cut to his apartment and he's wearing a towel and he opens up a box and throws gold coins on the bed, then drops his towel, dives onto the coins, buck-ass naked. They do previews and that scene keeps popping up. An executive looks at me and goes, I'll give you a copy of that scene because it's never going to be in the movie. And I was like, you pussy.
That's amazing.
I bet he didn't tell the executive that. He didn't say you pussy. He probably just thought it. He said, I was like, you know, when you're like, and I was like, that means you didn't have the guts to say it. You just thought it.
Yeah. But I know he said that was his favorite scene from the whole movie.
Yeah.
Was this guy bug-ass naked on the gold coins. Again, another pink elephant moment, which probably would have made this movie a lot more interesting.
Right. And this is already like a pretty hard PG-13, right? This is PG-13, isn't it?
No, I think it's R.
Is it R?
Yeah.
So it's like a really soft R, I guess? I don't know.
It's like, what's the point?
Yeah, you're right. It is R. So do you think that the guy hung dong in the scene on the bed where, you know, they just cut to him doing this and he's just swimming?
I mean,
just
if not,
dong's flapping around the coins.
If not, it would have been Bruce Campbell's favorite moment, right?
Jordan, you know what's crazy? So one thing about Darkman, which is kind of cool, is his appearance on the posters for the film. He's got this big overcoat on, and he's got this kind of fedora type hat on, and he's got these gloves on, and he's got the bandage on his face, right? He looks super cool and badass and very iconic. Like, man, this was like an iconic 90s, like, superhero, comic book hero, like, that they would make for this movie. But Jordan, he doesn't really look like that until the last act of the film when you get the big action cue, which is him running around his building in this warehouse as he's getting shot at and things are getting blown up and he's fighting henchmen. And then it moves to the roof where he's fighting a helicopter and then he's getting pulled by the helicopter through the city and through traffic.
Isn't that like the most insane? I feel like that whole action sequence just gets nuttier and nuttier to where like the bad guy is shooting like a grenade launcher at him as he's hanging off the helicopter and cars are just getting blown up like on the interstate. I was like, wait, they had the budget for this? Like, what is happening? This just got super wild.
Yeah, I love it.
I guess all the budget went into these explosions, but just random cars being blown up from a grenade launcher being shot from a helicopter. I was like, this is crazy.
Yeah, it's insane, man. It's like if the whole movie had like really 3 cues like this instead of just this one awesome cue at the end, I feel like this movie would be legendary instead of just kind of a small cult classic.
Yeah.
Because it's an awesome scene, but it also leads to what I think the main problem with Darkman as a hero is. He looks iconic in this scene. This is what they used for all of the marketing imagery. But this isn't really who Darkman is. As a superhero, he's someone who uses his skin technology to copy other people's faces and he wears masks. So it's like, what is he? If he's that's not iconic. Then he's just basically Ethan Hunt from Mission Impossible.
Right.
That's not very iconic.
That's not super interesting. You know, it's not like, I guess it's like fun the first time you see him do it. He copies the bald guy. He's taking pictures like outside this cafe and you see them trading money, like passing a briefcase to this guy. So he goes and ties this guy up, or dresses him up and like chloroforms him and makes it look like he's skipping town. So the bad guys like have a nice trip and then or have a nice flight is what they say, and throw him out like a 20-story window. But yeah, you could think like, well, maybe couldn't he have just like done all that without the skin technology or like imitating the dude? But then you wouldn't see him like running away in the daylight with the face bubbling up and stuff. I don't know. I mean, that was fun for the first time around, but then it was just like, okay, well, I don't know how much they really utilized that or made that work the rest of the movie. And then, yeah, at the end, he's just like bandaged dude. Like, you would think when he goes into the warehouse fight at the very end, I guess he does do it at one point where he puts like the mask on one of the henchmen of his face, and then they like shoot the guy and they take off the mask, and it's really their buddy that they shot because he had the Liam Neeson face on. I don't know. I mean, that's kind of cool, I guess. But yeah, ultimately, it's like, how compelling are you as like a comic book hero if you're just like putting on masks and fooling people?
Yeah. It has its moments where it's cool, but I feel like that's why the movie struggled so much in the edit. Because I'm sure the multiple people who tried to edit this and the many people who wrote it, this has several screenwriters.
Like, what is this? Yeah, like, what is happening here?
Yeah, it has even more screenwriters than Circuitry Man, which only had 2. It's like, okay, so wait, so is Darkman, like, is he just burnt up and he is really strong and doesn't really feel pain, and he is like an Avenger who is like an action hero? Or does he not wear a trench coat in this hat and he like just wears all these masks and does all this other stuff? I should have turned the volume off of my computer, damn it. I just got interrupted with a chime. But you know what I'm saying? Like, the movie can't settle on either one.
Yeah. You kind of need to take out at least one of those, and it would obviously be more fun to have just like, I can feel no pain, I'm gonna get revenge and be this like badass looking cloak dude that's gonna take you out, versus the mask thing, which is just kind of But I feel like, yeah, it's maybe Raimi wanting to have his cake and eat it too, where it's just like, oh, I really like these effects with these masks like bubbling up and deteriorating, and I think all this wacky stuff is really fun. But then it's like the filmmaker wanting to kind of get bigger too and be like, make more like action movies and, you know, studio movies, where it's like, okay, well, we got to have like the cool helicopter scene and blowing up shit too.
Right. And you got Danny Elfman to score this, which he's a year removed from the first Batman. So his music really fits those big action scenes like you have at the end. And like the high adrenaline scenes. Elfman said he penciled in if he ever had an offer from Raimi after he saw Evil Dead, like he would work with him no matter what the movie is. And the score here is a lot of fun, but I wanted more scenes like at the end, or even, you don't have to have as massive an action cue, but just him doing action things while wearing that iconic poster outfit, I think would have gone a long way.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. That would have been cool to have more of that. I am glad we had that final scene. I think it was really fun. Needed more Pink Elephant, obviously. Yeah, anything else? Anything else we should cover?
Yeah, there's something else that I wish I could cover, and that's Jenny Agutter, Jordan. Jenny Agutter has a cameo in this movie. She's the doctor who is treating Darkman before he busts out of the hospital.
Oh, right.
She describes all of his symptoms. Jenny Agutter is the most attractive woman who has ever lived. She was in Logan's Run in 1976. I saw Logan's Run sometime in the 90s on television. Jordan, anytime I've had a dream, and that dream has been about a woman, and it hasn't been about someone I've known personally, it's generally been about Jenny Agutter as she appears in Logan's Run. I don't think anyone has ever looked more attractive than Jenny Agutter looked in Logan's Run. But you know what? She did another movie 5 years later called An American Werewolf in London. She's also insanely beautiful in that movie. And I don't just mean she looks attractive. That accent is insane. If you ever hear her talk in real life, she's really intelligent. If you see her now, she's in her 70s and she looks incredible. I love Jenny Agutter, Jordan. You know what? I never saw the full Logan's Run until a few years ago, Jordan. You know why? Because every time I watched it when I was a teenager, I had to take a Jenny Agutter break. And I just missed large stretches of the movie. I had to go back. I finally saw the whole thing like 5 or 6 years ago, finally. And I was like, man, this isn't as good as I remembered it, except for Jenny Agutter. Man, she looks great. Jenny Agutter, it was in this, and I'm not going to lie.
How many times are you going to say Jenny Agutter?
I'm not going to lie. I did go on a little Jenny Agutter in Logan's Run image search for, I don't know, like 10 to 15 minutes after her scene in this movie. I did hang around, and I did watch all of Darkman. I didn't take a Jenny Agutter break. I watched all of it. But, I just really appreciate Jenny Agutter, and I feel like I need to say that. In my opinion, the most attractive woman to have lived during my lifetime is Jenny Agutter.
To have lived ever.
Yeah, in my lifetime.
I feel like Rachel Weisz would have something to sell. Our Mummy episode speaks otherwise with the Esquire.
No, she's
hole.
beautiful in that. She's beautiful in The Mummy. Jenny Agutter blows her away. I'm sorry, I'll take her 10 out of 10 times over Rachel Weisz at any time.
Well, I'm glad you got some of one of your favorite things in this movie. Underused for whatever reason as this doctor.
It's just a cameo. I think that Sam Raimi felt the same damn way. And he said, man, I'm making a major motion picture. I could get Jenny Agutter to pop in here for 5 minutes. Bring her on. Come on, Jenny.
Bring her on.
And then he was like, cut. I need a Jenny Agutter break. And then he left for 20 minutes and then he came back. And they were like, are you
That's why
okay?
this movie got so messy.
Right. Yeah, probably so. It was like, yeah, my head's a lot more clear now.
Well, what would you score Darkman?
Man, are we done with Darkman? We didn't even talk about the big climax.
We know what you would score Jenny Agutter, but yeah.
Yeah, Jenny Agutter, I wish I could have scored with, but she's a 10 out of 10. Darkman, so we didn't go over the very end. After the big sequence with the truck, you have this sequence on a high-rise building where he fights the real villain here, which is Louis Strack Jr.
Strack. Yeah. Great villain name.
Right. His girl's boss, who's really not that remarkable, and he's outshined by his much more interesting henchman. But I enjoyed him in this final scene because he just continuously mocks Liam Neeson for being ugly. Basically, the whole scene is him where he's like, man, you are hideous. You look awful. Man, you look stupid.
Which reminds me of the carnival scene again, where he's like about to tell Julie about his disfiguration. But then there's a carnival barker who's like, and look at this freak! And then pulls out like this, weirdo skin person. But yeah, Strack is there. Like, isn't it weird that Strack is all of a sudden like very, I don't know, like able-bodied and...
Dude, he does like a 28 hit combo at one point. It is insane.
Like, he's just this like business tycoon guy, but all of a sudden he's like on this high rise. He's like, I historic the high steel. And he's just like flipping around and like jumping around on this high steels. And he's like all of a sudden this macho villain. It's pretty strange.
It's insane. And the craziest thing, Jordan, is they built like a 3-story high rise just to film this scene. And since it was 1990 and this wasn't like a huge budgeted picture, they didn't do a lot of safety measures. So they weren't on cables or anything. And at one point he got knocked off. And he broke his leg, and he came back to set like 6 hours later and finished the scene.
That's wild.
So Colin Friels, he might actually be like a real life Darkman.
He's like an MVP of this because of that. That's amazing.
Right.
I mean, I think he's really good in the role. Like, he's very schmarmy. He's very charming at the beginning, but like he's no good, like something bad's coming. And then, yeah, I feel like his taunting and his mockery here, like, really works. And you just really want to see him get his comeuppance. And he finally does. What about when he's like, he gets the bolt gun? This is like another moment where it's just like the helicopter stuff and the explosions. You're like, what is happening? He finds like this bolt gun and he's like shooting it like a madman at Darkman, and he like nails his hand to the wall or to the steel. Pretty wild.
Yeah, that was nuts, man. That's why I wasn't sure if this was R or PG-13, Because it's like, it feels a little too gnarly for PG-13, but there's only like 2 or 3 F-bombs, and like, that could have been way more violent, which is another like stuck in between type thing. Like, if you tone that down a little and made this PG-13, you would have appealed to a wider audience. But again, if you had gone like more all in on the violence, then you would have also appealed to more of an audience who is into that sort of thing. So
makes me think of the scene from The Crow where he gets his hand shot and you like see through it. Like, he could have done something cool like that, because he just gets like this bolt like pressed through his hand and then he can't feel any pain, which I feel like they could have leaned into that a lot more too, because a lot of times he's like, it's more slapsticky, it's more goofy, he's getting beat up by these guys, and it makes you think like he's feeling pain, right? Like, he's losing his balance on this high steel. Obviously, you know, he could be doing that and not feeling pain, but I don't know. I feel like they could have leaned more into that, where he's like gets hit with something, he's like, I can't feel shit, you know, or whatever.
Those are pretty good, Liam Neeson.
That could have been a line. I can't feel shit. Dropping some motherfuckers, you know. Hey, motherfucker.
You could be like Bruce Campbell, how he had to do that. Julie, like we could just edit your voice. I could have ADR'd this. Yeah.
Julie!
Could have done some voiceover.
Man, the movie would be so much better.
Should have had me.
Should have.
When I was 3 or whatever.
Right.
I'm sure I could have pulled that off then too.
Yeah, you probably could have.
All right, baby Jordan, give us a a quick fuck shit.
Fuck shit. Take the fucking elephant.
That's how you sounded when you were 3.
Right.
Man,
just chain smoking in my mom's womb.
Right. I didn't know you in 1990, so you could have been. I wouldn't know any better.
Could have been. You wouldn't know. Yeah, you don't know. You don't know about that.
Right. I would not know. I'd ask your mom, is that true? And she'd be like, yeah, he actually got me into smoking. He's the one who started it.
That's right.
When he was 3.
Smoking 6 packs a day. Wait, remind me, how does Darkman kill the villain?
See, isn't that sad? How unmemorable that is?
Like, he knocks him. I know he knocks him off, right? Or he hits him with one of the hooks, the swinging hooks. It's like a really goofy moment where there's like 6 hooks all coming at Liam Neeson at one point.
See, now that's what I thought was going to happen. And it would have been, again, if this was like, I guess, a harder R, or even just like a very imaginative PG-13, you could have done something cool with the hooks where he gets hooked and it's all gnarly and grisly and gross and cool. But he kind of just gets knocked off. Like, he drops him. I think he has control over...
Oh, that's right.
Over him, and he drops him. And
he's, like, hanging, and he's like, you're not gonna drop me. And then he drops him, and then he has, like, kind of a lame one-liner, right? He's like, it's not in you. You know, I know guys like you. You can't live with that. And then Liam Neeson just drops him, and he's like, I'm learning to live with a lot of things.
Yeah, it's just really sad and pathetic.
Right, it's just like, okay.
Like me this episode. Like, that's not what I want. I want a badass one-liner. He's already not going to get the girl. Like, come on. Give me something.
But it does, I mean, I feel like, all right, so we talked a lot about Raimi and like what he was going for here. One thing I read was like, you know, as he's trying to write this and figure out like, what is this movie? He basically discovers like, I'm going to make this movie about the soul of a man who like becomes a monster, you know, but then he has to like, he goes from, you know, just being this mild-mannered kind of like sweet guy that wants to help people out. Then he gets screwed over, becomes just this vengeful like monster of a person. And then he ends up just like full of self-hatred and accepting that he's become this monster and has to like walk away from everything that he loves. It's like, that's just really sad and depressing for like something that's supposed to be like a B action movie, you know, superhero, campy, fun stuff, you know?
It is. And even that doesn't really work because I should really be identifying Jordan and I'm not. I mean, I'm looking at, no matter how low I turn my microphone, Jordan, I max it out because I can't even control the volume of my damn voice. And this movie, I should be like, I feel you, Darkman. I feel you. And I don't really feel him, man. I don't know. Do you think Liam Neeson doesn't quite do what he needs to here? Because I love Liam Neeson. I mean, I just watched him in The Gray, and that performance is insane. But also, that's 21 years later. Do you think he's not at his best here.
I feel like ultimately everybody's trying to make a different movie. Raimi wants to make something goofy and gnarly and weird in his own shtick, his own vibe. Neeson was like drawn to the inner turmoil of this character and like wanting to act through all the makeup and stuff and like have that kind of challenge. Obviously McDormand's like too highbrow and wants to make this respectable. The studio just wants to make this fun. You know, it's just like too many things going on all at odds with each other. So yeah, I feel like Neeson and, you know, ultimately just is like, I don't know, the material's not jiving. It's not coalescing, but it's good parts. It's got some fun stuff. So
it does.
I wouldn't knock it completely, but yeah, it's just like kind of sad where you end it with him just being like, yeah, I'm learning to live with it. Then he just walks away and it's like, oh, that's the end of the movie.
And
okay.
then Francis McDormand's like, wait, like, I don't even care that you're ugly. I still love you. And he's like, nah, fuck it. Bye.
Nah, fuck it, whatever. Yeah, I love it. I mean, I don't love it, but that is pretty hilarious where he's just like, I've become this monster. It's just like, I don't care what you look like. Yeah, but I'm a piece of shit on the inside. So, you know, fuck this. I'm gonna walk away. I could go turn into Bruce Campbell and just disappear.
Yeah, right. Bruce needs a royalty check, so I gotta get out of here.
That's right. Need to get him in this movie somehow.
Oh man.
Well, yeah, I think score-wise, ultimately, I'm probably at like a 3 out of 5. You know, like middle ground. Like it was fun. I'm glad I watched it. I was not super inspired to watch the sequel or the third one. I didn't even realize they made 3 of these movies.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. But Jenny, my scale's out of 10. I'm gonna give this a 6 out of 10.
There you go. We're on the same page, just different numbers.
Yeah, yours is college ruled and mine is wide ruled, baby.
Well, movie connection, connecting this back to our last episode for Rocky 5. What do you got for us?
Oh man, I'm sure I had something at some point before I got ran into and I forgot it.
Well, talking about the depression here and just like losing yourself and, you know, just loss of self, loss of identity. We have a lot of that going on in Rocky 5 too, where it's just like everything bad happens to him and he's just got to feel really disgraced for coming so high and falling so low. So I feel like, yeah, Darkman and Rocky 5 would jive well in that same vein.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I feel like you could kind of connect Circuitry Man and that Vernon Wells is the villain in Commando with Arnold Schwarzenegger. And Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sylvester Stallone were the 2 big action heroes of the early 80s. Well, most of the 80s. And then Arnie stuck around and Stallone had a little dip and then Stallone kind of picked it back up and then Arnie kind of fell back off. And
then Neeson turned into an action star himself.
And then Liam Neeson took over. And while both those guys were like, man, what are we now? He was like, I'm the action star.
That's right. I'm old. I don't give a fuck.
That's right. You're about to be taken by me.
That's right.
I don't even know what just happened.
What did happen, but what's about to happen is, are you ready for the trivia battle?
Pop quiz, asshole.
I am ready for that, Jordan.
I'm glad you're ready because I didn't write any questions.
You son of a bitch. Who hit you? Did someone hit your pickup truck, Jordan?
No. But I really struggled with, all right, I want to write some Francis McDormand questions, or at least I want ChatGPT to write some for me. But, you know, nothing was clicking. And I was just like, you know what? It's Nick's turn next time. He's going to pick the punishment movie. He's going to pick the next film. Let him just punish me. I'm going to lose at trivia anyway. I'm just a sad piece of shit. So whatever. Fuck it.
That makes this even better, Jordan. And I'll explain why after this. So this is a little game we're going to play. It's called Ted Raimi is in Everything, Jordan.
Oh, nice. I even thought about like, oh, what can I do with Ted Raimi? Because I feel like he needs to be, you know, given his day and applauded for, yes, being in everything, basically.
Some of our listeners may not know who Ted Raimi is. Do you want to tell them?
He's Sam Raimi's brother, right?
That's right. He tends to pop up a lot in Sam Raimi's stuff.
He's one of the henchmen here.
Yeah, I don't know Sam Raimi at all. I've never met him, but he seems like a loyal guy. He likes to use the same people, and he sticks to his friends and family. His brother Ivan also co-wrote Darkman. His brother's a physician, but Ted is in most of his stuff. Yeah, he's here. He is in some of the movies I'm going to ask you the question about. Really, the question is just, is Ted Raimi in this or not? Is it true that Ted Raimi is in everything? So number 1, Jordan, is Ted Raimi in The Hunt for Red October?
No.
That's correct, Jordan. He's in Patriot Games and Clear and Present Danger, the Harrison Ford Jack Ryan films, but he's not in The Hunt for Red October with Alec Baldwin. Nice job.
He was the satellite analyst in Clear and Present Danger, right?
Correct.
Nice.
He's very likable in that. I always liked when he popped up and stuff.
Yeah, he's always fun to see.
I was actually aware of him as a kid before I was Sam Raimi, because I was never really old enough to watch Sam Raimi's stuff as a kid. But Ted Raimi was in like Sequest and other things, so he would pop up and I'd be like, oh, there he is. Or he was in Clear and Present Danger, like we just said, Patriot Games.
And of course, shout out to Sam Raimi's first big project, Evil Dead. He's Henrietta, like the ghoul thing that's in the basement in that movie. Which is pretty great.
Yes, but Jordan, is Ted Raimi in 2002's Bubba Hotep?
No.
No, he's not. Believe it or not. Which that stars Bruce Campbell.
Yeah.
Not Ted Raimi.
And not a Sam Raimi joint, so.
Yeah, that is true. All right, Jordan. Does Ted Raimi co-star with Adam Sandler in 1999's Big Daddy?
Yes.
No.
Okay.
Does Ted Raimi co-star with Adam Sandler in 2007's Reign Over Me?
No.
Yes, he is in that.
Oh, damn it.
Yeah,
I haven't seen that in a while.
Yeah, he has a speaking part in that, if I remember correctly. That movie was, I was all hyped on the Sandler doing drama roles train, and then that movie I was just kind of like, oh.
It was okay. Yeah.
This feels like it could have been a lot better.
Nothing I ever felt like I needed to rewatch.
You know what? That movie gave me a controversial opinion that I still hold, and that's it. Don Cheadle's not a great actor. I don't think he's a great actor. I think he just does the same thing. He does the same thing in every movie.
He does kind of just do the same thing.
Yeah.
I mean, he's charismatic to a point, like Ocean's 11, whatever, but yeah, he is basically just the same guy. He's just Don Cheadle.
Yeah, and he needs to do more in that movie, and he doesn't. So, I don't know.
But we digress.
No! I just want to complain about Don Cheadle now. But you won't let me. All right, last question, Jordan. So, you need to get this right to get 3 out of 5.
All right.
Is Ted Raimi in 2004's The Grudge?
Yes.
Yes! Sam Raimi produced it.
I knew it had a Raimi connection, so probably was in there.
Yeah, you're correct. Not a fan, though, of the American Grudge. I love the Japanese one. I think it's one of the greatest horror movies.
I haven't seen any of them.
The first one has some insane shots, some really scary shots. Scary little kid in that movie.
What can our listeners be scared with next time?
Well, you might have heard me say The Hunt for Red October in one of the trivia questions, that's from 1990, and that's not the movie, Jordan.
Oh, that's not the main pick?
That's not the main pick. No.
Oh, wow.
I've had my picks laid out for months, Jordan. You've picked some of them. Darkman was going to be one for this fall, and I'm glad you picked it because I didn't love Darkman. I didn't hate it, but I'm glad I got to fit something else there, Jordan. But my big pick for this summer was always going to be a big Tom Cruise starring film that I loved in the 90s but haven't seen since then. I've probably watched this 30 times in the 90s, but I haven't seen it since the 90s, and that's Tony Scott's Days of Thunder, Jordan.
Oh, nice. I have never seen Days of Thunder, so I'm really excited that you're picking this. I can cross it off the list.
Oh, dude, I'm so pumped. I can't imagine not liking this because I remember feeling like this movie has so much energy. And it's just like positive energy that I loved. We used to watch this, like if we had a substitute teacher, one of us brought a taped off a TV copy of this VHS to school and it stayed at school. And if we had a sub, sometimes we could trick her into letting us watch the Days of Thunder VHS tape. It was great.
Nice. That's amazing.
Yeah.
All right. So Days of Thunder is our main pick.
Yes, that's the main pick. Hopefully it's still enjoyable. This is back when Don Simpson was still alive. and producing the movies with Jerry Bruckheimer. Famously passed away. The last project that he did was The Rock in 96, but he did this 6 years previous. Tony Scott movie. Tony Scott directed it, but he directed another movie in 1990, Jordan. Did you know that?
I did not know that unless you talk about it and I remember.
Well, Jordan, this movie stars your favorite actor of all time, Kevin Costner, who is actually not your favorite actor of all time.
Okay.
You don't like him.
Oh, what is this?
This is the critically panned Revenge.
Revenge, that's right. That was a Tony Scott joint?
It was directed by Tony Scott, Jordan. He directed both movies that year.
I guess he poured his energy into one of them. Yeah.
One of them was a huge hit, and the other one was Revenge, which is weird because it's
Kevin Costner.
It's Kevin Costner. You know, he did a lot of big things around this. He did Field of Dreams the year before. He did Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves just a year later.
Dances with Wolves the same year, yeah.
Yeah, right. Dances with Wolves the same year. You'd think, like, the people that made this did such big things this very same year, and yet this movie, not really well thought of. And I've never watched it, Jordan. Never seen it. One of the few Tony Scott films I've never seen, so.
Well, these will be 2 Tony Scotts that I haven't seen that I can cross off the list, so. I'm digging it. All right, I'm excited. So, listeners can tune in next time for those 2 picks. And I'm excited to get into some Tom Cruise on the show because again, maybe we haven't really talked about Tom Cruise, have we?
Not too much. We did Eyes Wide Shut.
That's true. We did do Eyes Wide Shut for 99,
but not really too much else. And he kind of owned the 90s for certain portions of it, and we haven't talked about him.
Yeah, and we're coming off of big hits in the 80s that he had too, like right into 90. So yeah, this will be a fun little period of time to discuss with him. So. Yeah,
and this was released 2 days from when we're recording this. We're recording on June 25th. It was released June 27th, 1990. So the 35th anniversary is 2 days from now.
Well, happy birthday. Sweet. Well, thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for tuning in. I would normally plug the Patreon here, but it does not exist. So don't sign up for that.
That's right. The Patreon is gone, but thanks to all our patrons who supported us for the past 4 years. We really appreciated that. That helped the show out immeasurably. It helped us with our publishing fees. It helped us equipment-wise. We really, just getting the show to where it is now, we couldn't have done it without the patrons. So thanks to all of you. The Patreon may be gone, but we hope that you all continue to listen on the main feed, wherever you listen to podcasts, which is pretty much everywhere, even YouTube. We're on YouTube too.
Yes, thank you so much. I concur. I agree. I second all that. Thank you, patrons, for all your support. Love you guys. Hope you keep tuning in the show. Keep feedbacking with us. Give us your thoughts because you guys are awesome. So thank you all again. But yeah, keep listening to our show. Reach out to us at filmshakepodcast@gmail.com. As always, we'll catch you next time for more Filmshake.
Take it easy.
What if we just had a podcast episode of like all our claps combined?
I think we could fill out a whole episode with that.
100 episodes, yeah.
Yeah, the 100th episode is just clapping.
Just clapping. It's us clapping for ourselves for completing 100 episodes.
Yes, completely self-indulgent and self-congratulatory.
That's how we roll here on Filmshake.
That's right.
All right, well, why jack off when you can jack in? It's Filmshake.